How did you come up with the $3.7 million figure, which seems like a lot of money to people?
It does look like a lot of money, but actually, when you do the calculation, you realize how little money that is. And this is
This morning, we were talking about you started a motion sent to the Federal Court of Appeal, and then apparently lots happened since. So, can you give us an update?
yes. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Budapest time, which is right at noon in Ottawa, I got a phone call from the Federal Court of Appeal Registry telling me that I have 1 hour to answer a question about availability of provincial scheme for protecting customers of travel agents.
Really, just 1 hour.
And
All
not only the
parties too, right? I mean, I think CTA and the airline all get the same one
so
hour.
everybody got the same 1 hour. So pardon me. So I was really honored that I am being treated like a pro league member for
Right.
sure.
We got a team of lawyers that or researchers, if at least, right?
And I was lucky in the sense that well, last year in the Sky Grease saga, when Sky Grease went belly up, I was involved with some of those things before. So I was familiar with the Ontario one, I was familiar with the BC one, I knew roughly how they worked. So with a lot of effort, I was able to get it done in 55 minutes. So it was sent in 5 minutes before 1 o'clock. Actually, NewLeaf filed their materials a bit late. They asked for another 30 minutes. And in their response, they asked for all sort of things. They want to cross-examine me. They want to insist that I fly back to Canada for cross-examination. They also claim that passengers are protected better through the credit
Credit
cards
card.
because credit
I
cards
read that too.
will
Yeah.
will hold the money and will can give refunds if they don't perform. So then I responded and pointed out that credit card does not cover repatriation. If you get stranded away from your home, they will give you back the half of the price of the ticket because you already got one half of it to get to your destination, but they will not get you back home to your family, to your house, to your job. And I also propose that if cross-examinations are indeed necessary, then they can be done over Skype. We are in the 21st century after all. Then around, I think, let me check the time. Yeah, around 10 o'clock here, which is 4 in the afternoon in Ottawa, another direction came out telling NewLeaf to file an affidavit that backs up what they were claiming in their letter by tomorrow, that's Saturday at noon.
I saw that too. So can you elaborate? I mean, I'm not a lawyer after all. So
So,
what?
so, so what they need to do is they are required to put together a sworn statement where somebody with knowledge of how New Leaf operates, how much money it has, signing off on it under oath, and provide documents to explain why they don't think that passengers are protected, why they think that this injunction should not be issued, and then the court will be providing further directions, I expect. There are a couple of possibilities this point, and actually there since then came a further letter from New Leaf to the court because right now the court, we are after hours, so there's only a duty officer who is receiving submissions and taking it to the judge and coming back somehow with some information.
Oh,
But
so
but
it's still in operation. Like the duty officer is still like communicating with the judge potentially because this is expedite after all.
and
Every
this
minute.
is the other thing that is already it's a small but very important victory that the court decided to expedite this motion.
Right. I mean, obviously, I mean, I read New Leaf Communications to me. They do not want this expedite. They,
Yes,
they say there's no reason to expedite it.
yeah, and the court says yes, there is a reason, and so now the last communication from New Leaf, let me just look it up because New Leaf responded into the direction and was asking the court, was asking the court. Let me just find it. So they wrote back to the court and asked that has the court set a deadline for filing New Leaf's written memorandum of fact and law? Has the court determined that we will not be entitled to cross-examine Dr. Lukacs on his affidavit? Has the court determined whether or not oral arguments will be allowed on the motion for an injunction? And does the court intend to decide the motion for an injunction prior to Monday? So these are the questions that NewLeaf has for the court. I can also, do you want me to send it to you?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? I mean, I did follow, even though there are a few documents that I noticed that the latest one, I think in your directory, so I downloaded it and scanned through it. And to me, the fact that they're using the credit card protection, which even after reading just your response to me, it just really, I mean, the protection is just the credit card, which just cover the cost, right? I mean, it doesn't cover repatriation, which is, I think, precisely the point that you're trying to make. The performance bond, right? I mean, the $3.7 million dollars, like, is to get people back, right? I mean, did I get that right?
And a credit card will not get people back.
Yeah, no, credit card say, hey, I mean, you pay X dollars, I mean, the maximum you can get is this amount.
You know, one thing is clear: the court is taking it as seriously as such an issue can be taken and should be taken. And I just keep thinking, wow, I'm proud to be a Canadian, to have courts and judges that take the concerns and the money of citizens so seriously and are willing to spend their weekend on something like this.
Right. How did you come up with the $3.7 million figure, which seems like a lot of money to people?
It does look like a lot of money, but actually when you do the calculation, you realize how little money that is. And this is how it works. First, I checked how many flight segments NewLeaf operates. And I'm talking about direct flight segments, not indirect ones, not via. And I counted over a period of a week. They have a nice weekly timetable published on their website. So I just one by one counted. And if I made the math correctly, I found 60 weekly direct flight segments. Mm-hmm. I checked also what kind of aircraft they are using. They're using Flair Airlines 737-400s. And those aircraft have 156 seats. So let's multiply the two numbers. We get 9,360 passengers being transported per week. That's maximum. So if we assume an 80% load factor, so that means only 80% of the flights are full on average, then we get 7,488 passengers being transported per week. Even that is way too large to try to calculate how big is the risk. Because if you are from Halifax and your flight doesn't leave from Halifax, you don't get stranded. You can be pissed and you will have some losses, but you don't get stranded away from your home. So the next step I did is trying to give some estimate of how many people will be stranded away from their homes. And I just simply divided that number of passengers by half. Mm-hmm. On average, probably half of the passengers are going away from their homes, half are coming home. Mm-hmm. That is how we came down to 3,744 passengers per week. That is how many passengers may get stranded in 1 week if NewLeaf shuts down suddenly. Mm-hmm. And that is the group of passengers who are most vulnerable because they will be buying last-minute tickets. Right. So based on just generally knowing how much airfares are, how much hotel costs are, I counted with an average of $1,000 of out-of-pocket expenses per stranded passengers beyond and above what they may be getting as a refund from NewLeaf.
And that's how you get your $3.7 million. And by the way, the $1,000, those expenses of getting people back or hotel expenses or whatever, those are not covered by credit card, right? Which is what NewLeaf is trying to explain that, hey, I mean, that's how people are covered, right?
And this is exactly my problem. The reason, if there was a way to protect passengers, if NewLeaf could show some form of insurance of some sort, that whenever passengers get stranded because of NewLeaf, this will cover their expenses, this will get their home, mm-hmm. I would say, good luck to you. We will sort out the licensing issues later, but there's no urgency. The reason that I'm so concerned and the reason that gives this matter a dire urgency is that so far, all they're saying is that the credit card will give a refund. But if you got a ticket for $99, typical NewLeaf fare, and you get a refund of $99, you will not be able to get home from that amount of money.
Yeah, not on short notice. I mean,
Not on short notice. Even
when you're
even if
stuck.
even if you buy your ticket well in advance, it may not be enough. I mean, NewLeaf is claiming it's much cheaper than Air Canada and WestJet, and that's true. I'm not disputing that. But from that amount of $99, you are not going to get home. You will be spending between $500 to $1,000 on your ticket, plus your accommodation, and that's for a $99 ticket. If it is for a larger distance, we're talking about larger amounts. So on average, $1,000 is well within roughly how much a passenger will be spending. And if NewLeaf said, let's estimate only $800 and $1,000, and they explain how they came up with that, I would be willing to be flexible about it. The point is that we are talking about an expense to the order of magnitude of $1,000. It may be a little bit more, a little bit less, but on average, that's what sounds like a reasonable measure of how much losses passengers will have.
Right, right.
So we are dealing here with a very mathematical, precise calculation, and I was shocked when I first saw the figures. I didn't think it was something so drastic. Originally, when I first sat down to write this motion, I was thinking maybe asking for $1 million or $2 million, just the general some figure. But then I realized that's not right to tell the court, well, I think $1 million will be enough, so let's do the math. Let's come up with a justification mathematically. What is the risk here? Right. And I was shocked by the figure that I got.
Right. And can you?
That's right. There are two vendors who have come forward and with their names, and there has been a report of an unnamed third vendor as well. One of these vendors is owed $76,000, and there is an email from one of the directors of NewLeaf, which makes it clear that he acknowledges the indebtedness. This vendor already filed a lawsuit in Ontario against NewLeaf and NewLeaf's Ontario numbered affiliate company, which used to do business as NewLeaf Airways, and the CEO of NewLeaf, Mr. Jim Young. There is another vendor who was doing business with that Ontario numbered company, but was also promised by Mr. Young to be paid once NewLeaf receives capital, and he has never been paid. And he is owed, as I understand, over $58,000. They began selling tickets already on June 23rd.
Oh, okay.
And that is very troubling in the sense that normally with an airline, you're supposed to be selling tickets when you have the money in the bank and secured.
Right, yeah. As a secure guarantee beforehand. I mean, if they are licensed, that's what the requirement is.
That's right.
But the CTA give NewLeaf an exemption that if I get.
It didn't give NewLeaf an exemption. It basically said that NewLeaf is not really an airline, so it doesn't have to hold a license, which, in my respectful view, makes absolutely no sense. And the court agreed with me in June that this raises an arguable question.
For Canadians who. I think this is one of the arguments of NewLeaf. Well, they are Canadian booking on flying on Monday and whatnot, and now this injunction, it's going to stop them and change their plan. What's your response?
I'm not trying to stop NewLeaf on this injunction from operating. This injunction is not about shutting NewLeaf down. This is about ensuring that the money will be there not only for the passengers on Monday, but also for the passengers on October 2nd, which is the last day for which NewLeaf sold the tickets. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, and we're talking at this point about general models of economics, if the money runs out before October 2nd, then passengers who booked tickets for dates after the money ran out end up subsidizing the cheap travel of the early travelers, which is very similar from an economic point of view to a pyramid game. At this point, the court just told the NewLeaf to file their affidavit by Saturday at noon, and that's where the court left things.
Right. At noon, that is Ottawa time, right? All time
This
Ottawa?
in Ottawa time, that's correct.
Right.
So that's where the court left things so far. I don't know whether NewLeaf will be told that they can or cannot cross-examine me.
But you have made your time available. And by the way, will you be monitoring all this with yourself in Europe?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to get a few hours of sleep, but I'm going to be keeping my laptop open, and certainly once I arrive in Prague, I will also there be checking things through my internet, through phone. I mean, there should be internet at the hotel. There will be internet at the conference that I'm attending. So there will be a way to keep on top of things.
You will try to arrange with them for a cross-examination of you, right?
Over Skype,
Over Skype.
I'm happy to do it over Skype, and they can ask me whatever question they have. It's not. I would be really surprised what they would be asking me, because the documents are there, and it's really. I mean, I'm pleased and not surprised that the court said that it's time for NewLeaf to put forward its evidence, because most of the things that I provided are one way or another coming from NewLeaf. I'm basically attesting to the fact that I received this email from person A or person B, and now NewLeaf has to explain, is the document not true? Has the situation changed? How much money they have? What was the situation with those vendors who are unpaid? They need to essentially give a coherent explanation to what they have been doing. And at that point, the court may say that, okay, that we are happy with this explanation, the injunction is dismissed, or the court may say, well, based on this information, the matter is not so urgent as it looked at the first place, so now you can do cross-examination. Or they can say, well, actually, we're not convinced at all, and we're going to grant the injunction because it's an urgent matter and the public needs to be protected because the agency did not do it. I'm just telling you possibilities. One of the things that one has to bear in mind that one should be very careful with drawing conclusions at this stage about the court's action. What I'm seeing and what I'm extremely pleased and what I already consider a major victory here for the public is the court is treating this matter as a very, very high priority matter. And the fact that the affidavit will be filed on Saturday and that the court is going to look at this on Saturday is an indication of the fact that the court understands that this is a burning, dire emergency. And all I can say is that the Canadian traveling public should thank the court for that. Whatever the outcome is, whatever the decision will be made, it is a great relief that the court treats Canadian public with so much concern and so much affection, I would say. Of course, we are hypothesizing here, and we're all just talking hypotheticals. But tomorrow, Saturday at noon, NewLeaf will be filing the affidavit. After that, I suspect that the court is going to review the affidavit and then decide what to do next. It is possible that the court is going to say, well, the evidence of NewLeaf is so good that obviously this passenger rights advocate has no case and we dismiss the motion on the spot. Option A. Or the evidence is good but not so clear, but now we are not concerned that people are going to get stranded for next week or two, and so perhaps the matter is not so urgent as it looked first. Also a possibility. Third possibility is, well, the evidence is, making me think. I'm not sure what's happening. The judge may think so. Let's allow the parties now to cross-examine each other over the coming week, and then once we have all the evidence and all the submissions, then we will do something with it. Or
hang on a moment. So with this possibility, the cross-examination could happen, but the airline could still fly on Monday.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Now, one other possibility which had just occurred to me now, and when you come to think about it, that may be what the court may be thinking about. I don't know. Of course, we're just speculating.
Yeah, we're listing out all the possibilities.
Yeah. Is that so? Another possibility is that based just on my affidavit and NewLeaf's affidavit, the court is going to make what is called an interim injunction as opposed to an interlocutory injunction, which is in place for 1 week, 2 weeks, it's up to 14 days normally, and says, okay, for this 14 days, I'm going to impose this restriction, which can be either you cannot fly or you can fly if you post a certain amount of a bond by a certain date. And anything else we're going to look at later date. Normally, the as I understand it, and I mean this is I'm finding it in a way I'm using that I'm giving you a lecture about how emergency injunctions work, even though I know nothing about law. I'm a mathematician, not a lawyer. But the general principle, as I understand, is that the court will first want to deal with the dire, urgent, immediate emergency. Once that fire has been put out, then things go back to the normal course of life of action, where parties may submit more evidence, where cross-examination may take place, where the matter proceeds in at a slower pace. So what the court will likely want to understand over the weekend is there such a dire emergency that something has to be done before Monday? And I think that knowing how good judges we have, I don't think that the justice who is seized with this matter has made up his mind on this. There's a whole point of being a judge, to keep an open mind, and once you have all the information that you think you need, then you look at them together and then you make a decision. So right now everything is up in air, and in terms of what I'm feeling, and is that right now I have the feeling that this case is now in good hands. It is in the hands of a judge of the Federal Court of Appeal who very much cares and wants to get it right. And I think that is way more than passengers get lately from the Canadian Transportation Agency. So in terms of my own target, my primary target, I feel that already a lot has been achieved. That someone who is impartial, who is knowledgeable, who cares, who is dedicated to the issue, is going to look at the facts and then render a decision, and will try to balance all the possible interests and put in place something that will ensure that the traveling public is safe.
Yeah, you're not trying to destroy them or stop them or whatever, but protection is what you seek, right?
I'm not trying to shut down NewLeaf. I just want to make sure that they don't gamble inadvertently with passengers' money. If NewLeaf wants to gamble with its own money, that's fine. It's their money, the investors' money. I don't care. Yeah. I do care about passengers' money and passengers' vacations and passengers getting stranded away from their homes. And if NewLeaf is unable to safely operate its business while offering guarantee to passengers that they won't get stranded, then unfortunately they cannot operate safely, and therefore they need to be shut down. But in terms of what I wish for the public is that they will just post the bond and we all move on. What concerns me is that NewLeaf has been making a number of decisions with respect to its vendors which make no sense from a business point of view, even if they dispute some of those bills. $135,000, which is the total sum of the two vendors, is pocket money in the airline industry.
Well, even it's pocket money, even compared to the performance bond you asked, $3.7 million. That's not a lot in terms of your rough calculation, right?
It's a very small amount. So it's beyond me why a company that wants to earn the public trust would choose not to settle with those vendors who obviously have some claim, even if the NewLeaf may think that they are claiming too much. Just reach a settlement with them and clear this issue out so that you will not get the bad press and so that you will not raise all those questions about your finances.
Right.
And one more alarming sign that I've seen here, I'm not sure if we covered it before, is that as of the 20th of July, that was Wednesday, they haven't signed their agreement with Kelowna Airport, and they haven't paid their deposit to the Kelowna Airport. It's sad that someone who is a mathematician has to do actually the actual calculations because nobody else would do it. The Canadian Transportation Agency should have looked at it long ago and realized that this puts people at risk, but they didn't. They instead wrote a decision which said, oh, passengers are safe under the provincial legislation, which doesn't even exist. There's no provincial legislation existing at all in many provinces to protect consumers of travel agents, never mind consumers of NewLeaf, which is not a travel agency at all and is not registered with any of those schemes. So, which is, by the way, another thing that I really don't understand, why they haven't registered with those.